Welcome, children, to our last segment for our Joseph series. And joining us today, we've got Pastor Stu. How are you, Pastor Stu?
I'm very well, thanks.
Fantastic. So just a brief background. We've seen what Joseph has gone through. Some frightening times, some sad times. And now we see him as God has used him to realize his calling and the perseverance that he's had to have to get to that point. So Pastor Stu, were you always a pastor?
No, not at all.
Okay, and so what were you before?
So it took a good period of time, but I was in the business world. I started as an accountant, then I was a computer programmer, and then I ran a business, and eventually became a pastor.
Okay, and then when did you feel God calling you to be a pastor and change from, you've said quite a number of professions, and when did that happen?
That's what's so interesting. I first felt a call when I was 16, when I was still at high school. And God seemed to be nudging me towards ministry. And I didn't believe him. It took a while to figure that one out. And then a long period until I became a pastor.
Wow, that's very interesting. Hey, so sometimes even though you try and run away from it, you will always get back to where God wants you to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it must have taken a lot of perseverance as well. So that means it took quite a lot of time. How many years roughly do you think it took for you to eventually become a pastor?
It took just over 30 years.
Wow.
From when God first called me till I became the pastor at Emerald Hill, which is the first church I was pastoring.
First, and this is it still.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So children, just also a reminder, for all you know, God has called you for a purpose, but you might not realize it, or you feel you're not ready. But when God has called you for something, you've got to persevere and see it to the end. And then, why do you think God made you wait in that whole process?
Actually, I think there were many reasons. Some of those reasons were basically I was not ready. At the age of 16, 17, I was a very quiet, shy, introverted young lad. And God had to build a confidence into me, had to grow a maturity into me. But also, he built experience. And with experience of business world and interacting with people, I could understand people as a pastor. I could come alongside them with experience and say, I know what you're going through. And Emerald Hill weren't ready for me until the time had passed. So in many ways, it's a lot like Joseph. God knows ahead of time, but we don't.
So you can see with these dreams, we all started, Joseph and his many dreams. He dreamt about the stars, the hay, all the way to him dreaming about the cupbearer, and eventually getting to being governor of all of the land. And now, how do you feel now that you're doing what God has called you to do?
Totally fulfilled. I know this is the job that God made me for a long time ago. And got me ready for, and now I feel totally fulfilled. I love the job. I would never go back to any of the other jobs.
Wow. Just the same thing for you, boys and girls. Remember, persevere through everything that you're going through. It won't happen today or tomorrow. It could take years, like what we've learned from Pastor Stu. And just like Joseph, what started off as many jokes, many dreams, led to him being governor and him helping everybody that's around him, including his family. So just the last one, how do you deal with your relationships as you go on about your work and perseverance, just like Joseph and his brothers? How do you deal with everybody there?
Well, along the way it was interesting because I told everyone I was going to be a pastor, and then for 30 years nothing happened. But I mean, it teaches you to go back and question God and check with God and make sure this is what he still wants you to do. And God definitely led along the way. I often say at the beginning when I was a teenager, God whispered. And as time went, he spoke louder. And by the time I became a pastor, he was talking loud enough that I definitely knew it. But also along the way, he teaches you how to deal with people and in relationships. And that helps as I counsel, as I work with people now.
And that's just amazing, boys and girls. Relationships are important. Perseverance through the waiting, especially the waiting, it's key. And we've seen from Pastor Stu, he's waited. He waited for a long time for his calling to come to fruition. And just like you, just like Joseph, God will bring everything to come to pass. Okay, and if ever you look for Pastor Stu, he's right there next to the hall in the corner. Pop by and say hi. He's got very coolest couches. So yes, thank you so much, Pastor Stu, for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for coming to visit.
Thank you.
Thank you.